this time, I would ask everyone to silence all cell phones and electronic devices. If you wish to appeal any recommendation of this commission, our appeals cards are to our right. If you wish to speak in front of the commission, we respectfully ask that you fill out a speaker's card and submit it to our secretary. Each side will be given 10 minutes to state their case with a 5-minute for rebuttal. And lastly, if you wish to discuss the case when it's concluded, we would ask that you leave the building, as if you go back into the back lobby area, it does echo into the chamber. This time I would ask Commissioner Casabon for our invocation, followed by Commissioner Richard with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Heavenly Father, we thank you for allowing us to come out tonight to do the parish business. Lead and guide us in all our decisions that we make, that they will be the best for all concerned. Take us safely home. In Jesus' name, amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. At the beginning of each of the commission years, we elect officers. Those office positions are the chairperson, the vice chairperson, and then the chair will select a parliamentarian. This time I would ask the commission if they have a nomination for chairman.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to nominate you as the chairman for this year.
Second.
Mr. Dougherty nominates humbly myself, Mr. Manella, second by Commissioner Casabon. Are there any other nominees? If not, I would close.
Mr. Chairman, I've got one question.
Sir?
Should we wait till the reappointments? Since, some of us may not be back.
I will defer to counsel on this.
In other years, it's not a problem. But this year, because of the new council coming in, it may be. That's the only question.
Your new rules indicate it's the first meeting in January.
Okay.
It would be the appropriate if an officer were elected and he or she was not reappointed, then the commission would have an election at that point in time to reappoint whatever vacant office there might be. Thank you for the question. So at this time, we have a motion by Commissioner Dougherty, second by Commissioner Casabon, to elect Mr. Manella as the chair. If there are no more, I would ask for a vote. Motion carries, and respectfully, I thank each of you for your vote of confidence. This time, I would ask for nominations for the office of vice chair. Commissioner Davis.
I'll make a motion for Commissioner Dougherty.
I'll second.
Motion by Commissioner Davis for Commissioner Dougherty to be the vice chairman, second by Commissioner Matthews. Are there any other comments or any other nominees? If not, I would ask for a vote. Congratulations, Commissioner Dougherty. At this time, I would appoint Commissioner Matthews as the parliamentarian for the commission, which is, in the rules, the chairman's prerogative. Approval of the minutes of the December 1st, 2015 meeting. In our packages are those minutes. Everyone have an opportunity to review them. Commissioner Matthews.
Motion to approve the minutes is written.
Second.
A motion by Commissioner Matthews, a second by Commissioner Willie. Is there any further comment? Hearing none, I would ask for a vote. Motion carries. Postponing of cases. Staff, do you have any cases other than what's, or excuse me, do you have any cases that are to be postponed? Thank you. This is a public hearing. Comments Comments from the public are encouraged relative to each case, either for or against, or if you just wish to comment and voice an opinion. Zoning change request cases. Applications for a proposed change of zoning district or amendments to the land use ordinance requiring review and recommendation of approval by the Zoning Commission before action by the Parish Council are as follows. 2015-26-ZC. This case has been withdrawn, but it is on our agenda, so we will just read what it was. Existing zoning, A3 Suburban District, proposed zoning, PF1 Public Facilities District. The parcel, 1.6 acres. Petitioner, Reverend Jose Lunge. The owner, St. Genevieve's Roman Catholic Church. Parcel is located on the east side of St. Genevieve's Lane, north of Bayou Liberty Road, Ward 9, District 11. This was postponed by the December 1st meeting, and the petitioner has withdrawn. Correct, staff? No action will be required. 2015-38-ZC, existing zoning, CB1, Community-Based Facility District. Proposed zoning, NC4, Neighborhood Institutional District. The parcel, 27,565 square feet. The petitioner, the Ernest Corporation, Christopher Inman. The owner, the Ernest Corporation, Christopher Inman. The parcel is located on the west side of U.S. Highway 190, Frontage Road, south of Fountain Blue Drive, Ward 4, District 4. This was postponed from our December 1st, 2015 meeting. Staff?
The 2025 future land use plan calls for the area to be developed with residential uses that would allow for the preservation of the natural environment of the site. Staff does not have any objection to the request, considering the location of the site along Highway 190 Service Road and the proximity of other existing neighborhood commercial uses. At this time, staff would like to recommend approval of the request.
Thank you. Sir, if you'd state your name.
Yes, it's Chris Inman. And I'd like for you to approve the change in zone. This is a piece that got kind of wrapped up in the 2009 comprehensive rezoning, which zoned the golf course as CB1, and this piece really has nothing to do with the golf course. It's, as Ms. Lambert mentioned, it's immediately north of Troop L, and it fronts on the Highway 190 frontage road there. And I think it's, the NC4 is consistent with the zoning up and down the frontage road there. In fact, it's at the light end of some of the zones.
And Mr. Inman, if you would please state your address as well.
Sure, it's 105 Beauchamp Boulevard, Mandeville, 70471.
Thank you, sir. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak in favor of the zoning request? Is there anyone who wishes to speak in opposition? Seeing none, I close it to the public and I bring it to the commission. Commissioner Davis.
Mr. Inman,
Yes.
looking at all the different things that could be placed in NC4, obviously you have NC1, NC2, and NC3 as well, but I'm looking at nursery, childcare. Is there any idea about doing something like that, or are you looking at anything in NC4? Because there's not really many things that are different. You have dance studios, music studios, fitness centers, churches. Is that what your intention is at NC4?
Well, I think NC4 is consistent with the zoning up and down the frontage road.
Okay.
Right now, we don't have any particular use in mind. No.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Commissioner Lauren.
Yes, sir. Mr. Inman, one question. Looking at the survey that was done, that was in our packet, it looks like Tet Lures cuts across, the bank of it cuts across the corner of this. Is that correct?
Well, not really. It runs parallel. The northern boundary runs parallel with the bayou.
Well, that's not what what's shown in the survey, but just as information.
Okay, well, you know, all I can say is, yeah, I see what you mean by that back corner. Appears to go into the drainage servitude there, but I don't think that the servitude's wider than the actual bayou is.
Commissioner Matthews?
Yeah, it seems to me that NC4 might be a little strong for this area. The only other NC4 really is at least 400 feet to the north of this, while it is next door to the state police office. It's right in the middle of a golf course and a residential area, really, adjacent to it. And NC4, there's a lot of stuff you can put in NC4 that I don't think would really be appropriate right in the middle of a golf course. NC1, a professional office, I think that's more appropriate. And I could support NC1, but I cannot support NC4.
I guess to answer you, the golf course, it's not in the middle of the golf course at all. And the golf course actually is to the west of this parcel, totally. And secondly, I don't know that there's any NC1 up and down the frontage road.
I don't know if there's any NC1. I haven't looked at the entire length of the road. But the golf course looks like it surrounds on at least two sides this piece.
Are you a golfer?
Say again?
Are you a golfer?
No, I'm not actually.
Okay, well, I was going to say, come and play the course. Only as you go to the north, there's a wooded area and a pond. So the golf course is actually to the west of that. So, I mean, yes, the golf course does abut it to the west side on the tee box area, but the rest of it is wooded. So.
Well, it looks like a water hazard to me, but
it is a water hazard, absolutely.
Part of the golf course.
Commissioner Richard?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm very familiar with the property. I actually live on Fontainebleau, which is the property, the nearest street adjacent to this. A couple of, or maybe prior, a month ago, we dealt with an HC rezoning just south of this. On the north side of Fontainebleau is some property that Mr. Inman is developing right now in, I guess you would call it small office condos.
Mm-hmm.
And that is NC4.
That's
is that correct? First, I think it's absolutely appropriate, and I think this commission should approve NC4. But just want to make sure, because I have been a golfer for many years on the golf course, is there a screen going to be there? Is the wooded, that lot doesn't quite go all the way back, and it's still going to be wooded so that you're not on that tee box looking at the back of a building,
yeah,
much like we don't really see Troop L. You might see some components of Troop L, but you don't see. So there's some screening.
Yeah, there's I don't know how many feet it is from the tee box to the property line here, but it's quite a ways. And when we met with the people that lived at the end of Beau Chase, which is the piece that's immediately to the west of the tee box.
I lived on that street too.
Okay.
It's like I said, I'm very familiar with it, and you've answered all my questions, and I would move to approve.
Okay.
A motion by Commissioner Richard to approve and a second by Commissioner Lauren. Commissioner Casabon.
I, too, agree that this is an appropriate zoning in this particular area, and I know the Google map, looks like it's sitting in the middle of the golf course, but I'm familiar with the area, too, and I agree with staff, so I'll support it.
Commissioner Matthews.
Oh, sorry. Is that what I need to say? Thank
Are there any further comments by the commission? If not, we have a motion by Commissioner Richard, second by Commissioner Lauren to approve. Please vote. Motion carries.
Thank you.
2015-55-ZC, existing zoning A2 Suburban District, proposed zoning A2 Suburban District and manufactured housing overlay. The parcel, .98 acres. The petitioner, Stephen Slanton. The owner, Joe James. The parcel is located on the west side of United Church Road, south of Low Davis Road, north of Emancipation Road, Ward 3, District 2. Staff?
The 2025 Future Land Use Plan calls for the area to be developed with residential uses, including modular homes. Staff does not have any objections to the request and recommends approval.
Please come to the podium, sir. State your name and address.
Steve Slayton, 20484 Low Davis Road. And I actually now am the owner. I'm the person, I purchased it. And basically what I'm doing is I have a neighbor whose property abuts me, and I'm exchanging this piece of property for the property that abuts my home on Low Davis. And it's a good thing for both people.
Thank you, sir. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak in favor of the request? Is there anyone who wishes to speak in opposition? Seeing none, I close it to the public and I bring it to the commission. Commissioner Willie?
Oh, yeah, this piece is compatible. His request is, I'll move for approval.
Motion by Commissioner Willie to approve, a second by Commissioner Davis. Commissioner Matthews?
I just wanted to say I counted at least 12 modular homes or manufactured homes in this area, and it seems appropriate.
Is there any further comments by the commission? If not, we have a motion by Commissioner Willie to approve, second by Commissioner Davis. Please vote. Motion carries. 2015-57-ZC, existing zoning, NC5, Retail and Service District. Proposed zoning, A8, Multiple Family Residential District. The parcel, 1.933 acres. The petitioner, Jessica Lacey and Jared Bowers. The owner, JSB Mandeville, LLC. The parcel is located on the south of Louisiana Highway 22, north of West Causeway Approach, east of Moore Road, west of Dalwell Drive, Ward 4, District 10. Staff?
The 2025 Future Land Use Plan calls for the area to be developed with commercial uses. Staff does not see any compelling reason to recommend approval of the request, considering that the A8 zoning district would create a significant increase of intensity of the uses in the area. Note that the maximum density under A district is 1 unit per 1,500 square feet of property, which would allow for the 1.9 acre site to be developed with a total of 55 units. At this time, staff would like to recommend denial of the request.
Sir, state your name and address.
Good evening. My name is Scott Groh. I live at 545 Beauchene Drive, and I represent the developer for this particular parcel. It is currently zoned commercial. If you're familiar with the parcel, it's in the bowling alley area, Tiffany Lanes, along Highway 22. This is off into the back left corner as you enter the development. The plan was to put an apartment complex here. Everything in the area is residential. It's surrounded literally on all sides, commercial. It's literally surrounded on all sides by commercial entities. And it would just be a good place for an apartment complex. It's close to grocery stores, entertainment activities, and even though it is on Highway 22, it has a very well-developed infrastructure to be able to get people in and out of it. So, with that, we'll answer any questions you have.
Thank you, sir. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak in favor of the recommendation? Anyone who wishes to speak in opposition? This time I close it to the public and I bring it to the commission. Commissioner Matthews.
While I agree with the staff that the A8 designation seems to be a little too dense, I think this area is appropriate for apartment complex because everything is commercial around it. And yeah, you would be in walking distance to a grocery store and walking distance to several different retail developments. However, I think the A8 at 55 units in this area is way too dense. I could support a much less density, like A6 maybe, but not 8. And if you were willing to change your request, I might support it, but otherwise, I will make a motion to deny.
Commissioner Matthews makes a motion to deny. Second by Commissioner Dougherty. Any further comments? We have a motion by Commissioner Matthews to deny, second by Commissioner Dougherty. I would remind the Commission that a yes vote is a motion to deny. Commissioner Richard.
Before we vote, a question was posed by Mr. Matthews to the petitioner about perhaps considering a lesser intense zoning, but you didn't give him or I'm not sure he had an opportunity to answer that question, so.
We will provide that to you.
Yeah, certainly. We're never going to be able to put 55 units on this particular site. Obviously, you know, it's real estate, it's development. You're trying to put as many units on it as you can. We've done probably 20 different site plans on this, and the most we could ever come up with is 45. But that doesn't quite meet what A6 would allow, which is why we requested A8. Economically, I don't know if A6 works, so I really can't answer that at this time. But, I mean, we do wish to proceed with A8, knowing full well that we can't put 55 units on it.
Commissioner Willie?
Well, he's mentioning that he can't put 55, but staff said that's a possibility.
We did a calculation. I mean, he submitted a plan here where he's showing 45 units proposed, which is, I mean, it's just a calculation that we did.
So it is possible to put 55?
Well, even on the drawing, you know, it's acknowledged that 55 units are allowed, but he's proposing 45, sometimes with meeting the setbacks.
Okay.
It's actually not.
Commissioner Dougherty?
Mr. Groh, you seem, or you made a comment, or at least I think you made a comment that you haven't looked at the economics of an A6 zoning on this piece of property. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. The commission has the opportunity to postpone this till next month to give you an opportunity to look at the economics of it. Would you be willing to look at it and come back to the commission next month, or you're stuck on A8, period?
A postponement's always better than a denial. I guess that's the easiest way I can answer your question. We'd be happy to take a look at it, and I don't know if we'd have time to amend our request or not. That would be a staff question, but we'll certainly look at it rather than facing a denial, certainly.
Okay, then I will make a motion to postpone until the February meeting.
Second.
A motion by Commissioner Dougherty to postpone until February, second by Commissioner Willie. Any further questions? Motion to postpone will take precedent. So we do have a motion to postpone and seconded. I would ask the Commission to vote on that motion.
I have a point.
Commissioner Davis. Please vote. Motion for postponement carries.
Thank you.
2015-80-ZC. The petitioner had asked previously. He has another engagement, so he will be later at this meeting. So we will amend the agenda to place that at the end of the agenda. No. The chairman's prerogative, but the commission needs to clearly understand. The same with 2015-81-ZC. Petitioner again, same petitioner, so we will move that to the end of the agenda. 2015-82-ZC, existing zoning A3 Suburban District, proposed zoning NC3 Lodging District. The parcel 6.284 acres. The petitioner, motion by council. The owner, Lori L. and Brian E. Chopin. The parcel is located on the north side of Louisiana Highway 1088, east of Iola Street, Ward 4, District 5. Staff?
The 2025 land use plan calls for the area to be developed as planned district with residential uses and conservation areas. The Highway 1088 corridor is predominantly developed with residential uses, accesses to residential subdivisions, and undeveloped land. There are some existing commercial and institutional uses and undeveloped commercially zoned parcels of land along Highway 1088. However, the parcels were for the most part zoned or developed before the comprehensive rezoning. Therefore, staff does not see any compelling reason to recommend approval of the requested zoning change, considering that the site was zoned SA Suburban Agricultural District before the comprehensive rezoning and is currently surrounded by residential zoning on each side. Staff recommends the request for NC3 Lodging District designation be denied.
Thank you. Is the petitioner here? Anyone wish to speak in favor? Anyone wish to speak in opposition? Please approach the podium, state your name and address.
Hello, my name is Andre Olegas. I live at 2073 West Ridge Drive, and I like to make a comment, and I support the proposal of not allowing a change. I basically object to any change that would bring more commercial traffic into the area, especially between 1088 and I-10, because of the lack of highway infrastructure that allows turning lanes. The more commercial development comes into play, the more traffic is stopped, the more traffic is backed up, and it's backed up tremendously now. Until the highway department decides to put a turning lane such as on Florida Avenue, it would make everything difficult, even more difficult than it is now, for people to traverse 1088, especially getting out of Quail Creek subdivision. This will be an added problem that adds to the problem of students and people going to the North Shore High School, which adds tremendously to the highway load at different times during the year. And when commercial development, if it would to be developed, would just force more students and people to cut through our Quail Creek subdivision to avoid the light at the end of Salt. So I would think the commission would continue to not allow commercial development and consider the 100 or so property taxpayers in that area. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Hernandez.
Thank you. Carla Hernandez. I live in the Forest Brook subdivision, which is fairly close to this proposed change. It's been mentioned, I mean, we're talking about 2 lanes right now, one in each direction in front of this property. There are a number of properties existing today that are for sale, many of them residential, some of them commercial, along this corridor. There is, and I would hope that you would agree with the staff, there is no need to create more commercial designation along Highway 1088. There is enough presently vacant and some existing along this corridor. And right now we have 1 lane in each direction. The interesting thing is that the proposed improvements to Highway 1088 have not been finalized. One of the alternatives, though, which has been supported by a number of us, would increase the right-of-way necessary along 1088 to provide for additional lanes and potential turning lanes also in there. In order to do that, though, they would have to go, and guess where they would go? They would go into this area here. It's been suggested that it go into the area which is, however you want to designate it, on this side, on the side that's being proposed now for widening. And so clearly, and we could be years away from that taking place. It could be happening, you know, if somehow funds were found to do this in short term. But for right now, there is no proposal to improve the thing, even though there is a study that's been ongoing for a while now, and we're waiting for the final results to that. And again, the result, one of the alternatives was to improve this by increasing the necessary right-of-way, which would take into this potentially one of the properties would be this property here. So something to consider, and I would hope that you would agree with the staff that we have enough commercial designation presently, and we don't need any more right now, and hope that you also will agree with the denial. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak in opposition? Seeing none at this time, I close it to the public, and I bring it back to the commission. Commissioner Matthews.
I live right down the street from this, and I've gone back and forth several times in the last several days looking at this property and one other one that's up tonight. Between the Woodland subdivision and Forest Brook, there's almost no commercial entities. There's one which is a sports clinic type of thing, and everything else that is could be considered commercial are churches and mini storage, which are very, very, very low impact commercial type buildings. There is 2 or 3 already NC4 properties available, although not built on, in this area. There's 2 or 3 of them right across from the entrance to Forest Brook. The idea of putting a lodging district here, a B&B or a small hotel, is, I think, unbelievable. I can't imagine somebody actually doing that. My thought is that there is talk of putting several roundabouts on 1088, and by making this property an NC4 or an NC3 lodging district would increase the value of the property, and it may be taken in with the roundabout. And I don't think that's a good reason to raise the zoning classification on any property just so the owner may make some extra money if their property is taken by the state. That's taking money out of my pocket as a taxpayer. And I agree with the staff. There is just no reason to put a lodging district right in the middle of all of this A2, 3, and 4 property, and I would move to deny.
Mr. Matthews makes a motion to deny, second by Commissioner Davis. Any further comments by the commission? If not, we have a motion by Commissioner Matthews to deny, second by Commissioner Davis. An affirmative vote would be for denial. Please vote. Motion to deny carries.
Mr. Chairman, I don't know if it's possible, but since this came to us by council motion and it's going to go back with a recommendation to deny, I think the council needs to be made aware that the petitioner did not show up for this hearing.
Thank you, Commissioner Dougherty. We would ask council to note that for the record. Thank you. 2015-91-ZC, existing zoning, A1A Suburban District, proposed zoning, A2 Suburban District. The parcel, 2 acres, the petitioner, Victor H. Abel, the owner, Victor H. Abel. The parcel is located on the west side of Highway 59, north of Oswald Road, Ward 10, District 2. Staff?
The 2025 future land use plan calls for the area to be developed as a planned district with residential uses and conservation areas. Staff feel that there is no compelling reason to recommend approval, considering that the site is surrounded by residential uses and undeveloped parcels of land zoned A1A. At this time, staff would like to recommend denial.
Thank you. Is the petitioner here? If you'd please come to the podium, state your name and address.
My name is Victor Abel, 21445 Oswald Road, Covington, Louisiana. I don't want to rezone any of my property. I've got woods, pastures. I want to keep it just like it is. But my parents passed away. I inherited a house there. My brother passed away. I inherited this house on this property. Now, this young lady and her mother approached me and wanted to buy it, the house and the house at that point. All right, when it came to the 3 acres, they said they couldn't afford the 3 acres. Now, on here, in some place I see where it says north undeveloped A1, that's true. South undeveloped A1, that is not true. To the south of me is Wilsonville subdivision, which comprises of lots 25 by 100. And evidently you can still build on that because they threw in 2 mobile homes real quick right before they said no mobile homes on that side of the highway. Is there any disagreement on that? So, and I contend that it wouldn't be too much out of place to rezone that one 2 acres. To the east is also less than 3 acres. And it says contrary to that in this report. To the west, it's Military Road. Wasn't that rezoned less than 3 acres also? Now, we don't abut the Military Road, but that's what's on the side of us there. With that being said, I don't understand why I'm being denied if on 2 sides of my property was zoned less than 3 acres. Any questions on that? Why was it put down like this? Anybody have any idea?
We'll address questions to you once we hear from the public, sir.
Say again?
I said we'll address, any of the commissioners may address a question to you, but once we hear from the rest of the public.
Okay, whatever. I guess that's all I have to say. Should I step down or stay here?
You can step down. You might want to sit in the front row. I'm sure you'll get some questions. Thank you. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak in favor of this? Is there anyone who wishes to speak in opposition? Seeing none at this time, I close it to the public and I bring it to the commission. Commissioner Davis.
Mr. Abel.
You may come back to the podium. Thank you, sir.
This 2 acres, so you own the acreage around it as well?
Yes, I do. About 31 acres, something like that.
About 31 acres.
Yeah.
So, and I understand you just admitted that the individual wants to buy 2 acres but can't afford 3?
Right. And I don't want to sell 3, really. If they hadn't approached me to want to buy it, I wouldn't sell it at all. I like the woods. I like my pastures. I don't want to get rid of any of it. But I inherited 2 houses. I got to do something with them. I'm paying insurance and everything else.
Well, realistically, sir, if there was one house on this property and you asked us to zone this A4 for 1/4 acre, you see what I'm saying? You're only trying to do this to try to meet a financial need for you to sell the property, period. Is that correct?
No, remember I said I didn't want to sell it as 3 acres because I'd like to keep it woods.
Well, the way to do that is leave it as is,
What?
as A1A, which is the appropriate zoning in that area.
A1A? Why is it appropriate if I'm on both sides?
No. Well, you have to understand, well, then we should take all your property and make it maybe estate planning. I mean, you're trying to take a large piece of parcel and try to get a zone to meet a specific needs. To me, that's spot zoning.
Well, I was told that's what I was supposed to do.
That's what you're supposed to do if you request to get the zoning change. That's correct.
Right, okay.
But I don't think the zoning change is appropriate.
Why not?
I just got through saying,
Well, no, but it's right across, somebody, that's why I thought I'd try the 2 acres. I said, well, maybe we can work 2 acres. Because they said across the highway is less than 3 acres. Well, isn't that, I'm fitting into that situation, right?
what happens if we take the next door A1A and then move it to A2, and then move it to A3 for the next 3 acres, and move it for A5, and just start randomly spotting out just to meet?
No, but you don't understand. I've got 2 houses that I have to get rid of.
No, you're not. Don't argue with it. Okay, I'll make a motion to deny.
I have something.
Second.
Commissioner Davis makes a motion to deny, second by Commissioner Matthews. Commissioner Willie.
I've got a question of staff. Yeah, I got a question of staff. He's looking to get, he's acquired another house. And the only way he can sell this house in 2 acres is to rezone it to A2?
A2.
Mm-mm. I think you should be able to do that. So
Say again?
I said, I think you should be able to do that.
Thank you. I do. I didn't see a problem. Everybody told me there'd be no problem. And I don't mean I just talked to the man on the
Sir,
street.
I would ask unless he asks you a question.
I'm sorry.
I'm addressing commissioners right now. Thank you, sir. Commissioner Casabon?
Yes, I also, I've seen these situations, and I know the particular area and what he's talking about across the street. If there was not a house on this property, I would have some concerns, but we already, the 2 acres would be already developed, and I also do not have a problem with allowing him to be able to sell these 2 acres where he owns all the rest of it. So you're just adding an acre to his 31.8, and it would be, it would fit into that area. So I agree that it should be, he should be allowed to do this.
Thank you. Commissioner Matthews?
Staff, your report indicates that this is completely surrounded by A1A. The petitioner seems to disagree. Can you comment on that?
According to the zoning map, it shows that it's A1A. There might be some parcels that are smaller than A1A.
But they are non-conforming then?
Correct.
Okay. So this is in the middle of A1A, contrary to what the petitioner is indicating.
Yeah, according to the zoning map that I have, yes.
Okay. And this piece of property could be sold as 3 acres rather than 2 acres.
It is currently a 3-acre parcel, yes.
Okay. And if we sold 3 acres, this would be fine.
That's
There wouldn't
correct.
be any problem. And he would have the right to sell to this person with 3 acres.
It's an existing.
The only reason he is not, I believe, is that the person he wants to sell it to says they can't afford 3 acres. Then he needs to sell it to somebody that can afford 3 acres rather than changing the zoning right in the middle of A1A.
No comment, sir.
So we're just cutting this down to 2 acres to solve a financial problem to somebody that wants to buy it rather than a zoning problem which is what we're supposed to look at. And I agree that this is just, if it's not spot zoning, it's very close to it. And I think this should, he should sell the 3 acres or not at all.
Commissioner Lauren?
Yes, thank you. Mr. Abel, could I ask one question? I'm looking at the map they've got in our packet that shows the property being surrounded by A1A, but as I understand what you're saying, you own all of that property.
No, I own all on west of Highway 59 or Rangeline Road. What I'm saying is, there's a subdivision right across the street
No,
from
I'm
me.
talking about to the north, to the west, and just immediately to the south. Do you own that property?
Of this, yeah, I own
That's what I'm
30-something
saying.
acres.
And all of that is owned A1
Right,
as one big parcel.
the whole parcel.
Okay,
And-
that's why the staff's report is correct. It is one A1A.
No, it's wrong, because right across the highway is,
But your parcel.
Your parcel.
Your parcel.
Your
is
parcel.
A1A.
The question.
well, that's, I
think the
wouldn't be here
question-
otherwise, that's why I'm trying to get it rezoned.
The question is.
And I think I'm in my rights, because
you're not.
to the east of me and the south of me is A2.
They're referring to this.
This report
Sir,
is wrong,
Sir,
in my humble opinion.
what they're referring to is the parcel that you want to be rezoned. Your property completely envelops that, does it not?
Yeah.
Therefore, on that parcel, to the south, to the west, and to the north will be zoned A1A, because you own it. It's like an island. What you're trying to ask for rezoning, which is what Commissioner Davis is saying, is in the middle of your property. So therefore, staff is correct. If that property were to be rezoned, all of its adjacent properties would still be A1A.
That's fine.
Well, we understand your point, but what we're saying is staff is correct in its assessment. We understand it. Commissioner Casabon.
Yes, I understood you to say that the other acre, that you wanted that for more of a buffer from your property to leave it wooded if you should sell this 2 acres. Is that correct? It would still, the other acreage would still be part of your 31 acres, so you'd have 32 something. Is that correct? You'd have more of a buffer? Instead of...
I don't know about the word buffer. I understand, too, in this parish, you're supposed to leave 50 foot on every side of your property as a buffer. Am I right or wrong?
It depends on the zoning. I mean, there are lots that if a 50-foot setback, we wouldn't have them. So it depends on the zoning as to the setback.
Well,
I'm just saying that the other acreage would be part of your property, that it would still be enveloped if we allowed you to do this and to sell the 2 acres.
yeah, I guess.
I got one more comment.
At this point, I'm not sure what I'm saying.
Commissioner
I
Willie.
still concur.
Way I look at it, I'm still looking at the staff. The 2 acres that he's requesting is on the highway. Even though he's surrounded on 3 sides, but across the street from him is a small lot subdivision, right?
That's right.
That's what I see.
Why are you saying no? It's true.
Excuse me, sir.
I'm sorry again. My wife
I
told
would
me to
ask
shut my
you the
mouth.
second time to refrain from outbursts.
Is that a small lot subdivision on that map I'm looking at?
If I'm looking at the map, I see, I see an undeveloped parcel of land directly on the corner of Longleaf, and then 2
Right,
houses.
Longleaf and Range Line. What is that in that corner there? It looked like a plot of something, of
Which-
small lots,
Which corner?
right here. The southeast corner of Longleaf and Range Line. What is that?
The southeast corner? According to the aerial I'm looking at, I don't see anything.
What is that? All of that. That's a fire station? So he's requesting 2 acres across the street from a fire station?
No.
rezoned A2? I still don't have a problem with it.
Where's the fire station?
I don't know, you can't tell on that map.
We have a motion by Commissioner Davis and a second by Commissioner Matthews to deny, and a yes vote is for denial. Please vote. We have a motion by Commissioner Davis, second by Commissioner Matthews to deny. Therefore, a yes vote would be in favor of denial. We've asked for the vote. Doesn't matter. Motion fails.
Move for approval.
I'll second it.
I have a motion by Commissioner Willie to approve, second by Commissioner Casabon. Any further comment? Commissioner Richard?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My only concern, and the reason I voted the way I did, is I really want to know what's across the street. If there is a subdivision, right, and we can't tell on this map, if there is a small lot subdivision directly across the street on Longleaf, is anybody familiar with the area? Would you tell me what
Commissioner
subdivision?
Casabon, would you
Excuse me?
please
Sorry.
mic and comment?
Yeah, it's a long leaf plantation. It's just they did little country before we had really the infrastructure and things like that, and it's a little country. You know, they went down straight, and the fire station's on one side here, and you just go back, and they had plots. And it really wasn't a design one when, I don't know if it's even considered subdivision. Someone sold off land, and there's houses back there. You know, not large.
Staff, you able to
small.
call up an aerial on that? If you would be so kind to
It's, you put
show
the
it to the
underground.
commission.
Okay. Mhm.
Commissioner Davis, wish to comment or ask a question?
Yeah, I do have a comment on this. Back when we did the complete rezoning of all this property, and the council looked at this property, and we looked at this property, and we went ahead and put the overlay as A1A. I think there was a reason to do that at that time. And I understand the gentleman trying to get a piece of property out of his possession because, you know, he's got a couple of houses on it. But to do this, and Commissioner Matthews said it bluntly, just like I did, it does seem to be a little bit spot zoning characteristics where we're just taking a piece of property and start reducing it just to meet a financial need and stuff like that. Did we actually rezone this to be A2 or A1 or A4? That's my only point. That's my only point. It's not that I'm against really the idea of it, but I mean, if we start doing this again, this is what got us into trouble in the first place and why we had to rezone the entire parish.
So have you all reached a consensus of what's across the street?
It's actually undeveloped land directly across the street. It looks like pasture land. This subdivision we're talking about is down that Longleaf Road a ways, I
And
assume.
the house you can't even see. And again,
There is a house that's on the corner of Longleaf and Range Line Road. Can anybody tell me what that's zoned? It's directly across the street.
Yeah, Commissioner Casabon. Commissioner Casabon?
Yes, I know it looks like we're taking a piece out and we're spot zoning and it's just smaller than the things around it, but there are already pre-existing smaller home sites on the highway, the driveways and stuff, that it would not change the character of that area. And like I said, the house is on it, so it's not like changing it and clearing and building on it.
Commissioner Matthews.
I disagree. The house is on 3 acres now. We're trying to reduce it to 2 acres. If he sold the house on the 3 acres, there would be no problem. There may be houses some distance away on this highway that are smaller. They are there before we did the comprehensive rezoning. They are grandfathered in. They are now non-conforming pieces of property. And yes, this is spot zoning, which is what we're not supposed to be doing. We're doing this strictly so that a supposed financial need can be accommodated. That is also what we're not supposed to be doing. We're supposed to be looking at the property and what's around it, what's on it, and what should be on it. Not that somebody can or cannot afford 3 acres, but could afford 2 acres. If they could only afford an acre, would we make this piece of property an acre? If they could only afford half acre, would we make this a half acre? No, I don't think we would and don't think we should. What we should look at is everything around this on at least 3 sides, and what appears to be across the highway is A1A. And that, yes, and that's what we need to keep this, A1A. And I think to do other than that is we're doing the parish a disservice.
Commissioner Casabon.
I think that part of this commission's job is also to look at each individual case. It's not point blank. This man owns the property. This is what he's asking us to do. It will not change the area. I'm not looking at the financial whatever, to sell it. It's the fact that he owns it and he's asking for us to allow him to get rid of another house on the property at 2 acres. So as part of a citizen of Tammany Parish, it won't change the area. I do not consider it spot zoning because I do know the area, and it will not change how the area looks if we divide this, give him the 2 acres.
We have a motion by Commissioner Willie to approve and a second by Commissioner Casabon. Please vote. Motion fails. So we have to ask for the only again. Motion denied. (2015-101-ZC) existing zoning A4 single-family residential district. Proposed zoning NC2 indoor retail and service district and rural overlay. The parcel's 30,411 square feet. The petitioner, Andrew Johnson and Naya Tran. The owner, Andrew Johnson, Naya Tran. Parcels located on the south side of Louisiana Highway 1088, west of Salt Street, being 1210 Highway 1088, Mandeville, Ward 4, District 5. Staff.
The 2025 future land use plan calls for the area to be developed with residential uses. The Highway 1088 corridor is predominantly developed with residential uses, access to residential subdivisions, and undeveloped land. There are some existing commercial and institutional uses and undeveloped commercially zoned parcels of land along Highway 1088. However, the parcels were for the most part zoned or developed prior to the comprehensive rezoning. Therefore, staff does not see any compelling reason to recommend approval of the requested zoning change to NC2, considering that the site was zoned SA Suburban Agriculture District before the comprehensive rezoning and is currently surrounded by residential zoning on each side. Regarding the requested zoning change from rural overlay or to rural overlay, staff does not have any objection, considering that the permitted uses and administrative permits listed under rural overlay would have minimal impact on the surrounding area. Staff recommends that the request for NC2 Indoor Retail and Service District be denied and the rural overlay designation be approved.
Thank you. Is the petitioner here? If you would please state your name and address for the record.
Good evening. How y'all doing tonight? Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, fellow commission members. It's a pleasure to be here again with you today. I have a prepared statement. I get a little nervous in front of crowds, so if you don't mind, be okay.
If you would state your name and address.
Andrew Johnson. I currently reside at 1036 Creek Court, Mandeville, Louisiana, inside Forest Brook subdivision, right off 1088. Tonight, I am here with my wife as well. She's in the back. And it's a pleasure to be here with you today to discuss the plan zoning change for this particular parcel of property and from A3 single family to NC2 and rural land overlay. I've given a little attachment out with a little site plan that I've kind of built up, and I'll get to that in a moment. Before I begin, I think it's important for me to give you a bit of history about ourselves and the motivations behind our decision-making process and some of our observations we have witnessed along 1088 through the years. We first moved into our residence in Forest Brook in 2004. We chose Mandeville to be closer to my parents and to provide our son with a quality education, numerous extracurricular activities, in a family-friendly environment with traditional values. Residing on the North Shore has been a great experience for both of us and our son, and we wouldn't choose to live anywhere else. However, being on the North Shore comes with a disadvantage. And that disadvantage is that we have to overcome is employment. Just like countless others, we spend a considerable amount of time and resources commuting back and forth across the Causeway Bridge and along I-12. This is something that we discuss on a very regular basis, and one reason we are motivated to pursue our long-term goal of opening a small business relatively close to our home. We have seen many changes take place through the years. When we originally moved into Mandeville, Florida Street was a two-lane road that you hope no one was making a left turn on during a long commute home from work. Access to I-12 was a 15-minute ride out of your way to get home when passing the then non-existent I-12-1088 interchange. And 1088 was for the most part a private drive for those that live along 1088's many subdivisions and side roads. 1088 was so desolate. One night traveling home from work one evening, I happened to pass our subdivision entrance and come across some folks that were walking their dog down the middle of 1088. As I passed them up and turned around, and I remember them waving to me on my way back to the subdivision entrance, it was just a reminder of how quiet that part of Mandeville area was at that time. Originally, Mandeville Sports Complex was practically the only non-residential structure on 1088. But as time went on, things slowly changed. The introduction of Liberty Storage, Kids Carousel Daycare Center, 2 churches, as well as a professional office building have slowly began to fill the empty spaces along 1088. These businesses provide valuable services to the residents in the area, saving them time and providing convenience they otherwise wouldn't have. I know firsthand because I actually use these services, and I'm grateful that people were able to bring much-needed benefits to the area. Lastly, Lakeshore High opened its doors and construction of the I-12-1088 interchange was completed. This was a benefit to the residents along 1088, reducing travel time to access the interstate, but also transformed 1088 from a sleepy backcountry road to a vital artery for people traveling in and out of Inner Mandeville. This brings us to today. And I understand change and transformation do not set precedent and rightfully dictate the change of zoning of property. And I understand that each case for zoning change must stand on its own merit. But I would appreciate consideration for this zoning change to include a somewhat holistic view of the entire 1088 corridor. At this point, I would like to bring your attention to my handout, which I have provided, and call your attention to page 1 to discuss what the NC2 designation's purpose is and what changes to this particular zoning would entail, and I quote, "The purpose of NC2 Indoor Retail and Service District is to provide for the location of small retail and services in close proximity to residential development in order to provide goods and services to the residents of the neighborhood with minimal impact. With that purpose and the limited permitted uses allowed in the NC2 district listed on my handout, my wife and I purchased this property to ultimately build a small retail business to serve the local area residents living along 1088. The parcel is roughly 30,000 square feet and could potentially support 2, possibly 3 homes, depending on how they're configured. But because of our sensitivity to the surrounding neighbors and a desire to minimize the impact of our project on the land, we envision one structure no greater than 3,000 square feet. Our intention is to minimize density on the land and to maximize green space in order to help preserve some of the characteristics that made us so fond of the area in the first place. I have attached a rough draft of the facility in order to give an idea of how the facility would lay out. Instead of potentially 2 to 3 driveways entering 1088, we would have 1, limiting the entry points onto 1088, reducing possible safety hazards. All parking would be to the front or side of the facility in order to keep visiting traffic as far as possible from the residents in the area. In addition to required buffering, the building would be set back as far away from Elmer Street as possible. My wife and I understand the concerns for the good residents in the area. We have tried to take into consideration how they might be impacted by any additional traffic on Elmer by eliminating any possibility for access to Elmer from this parcel. We would place the structure in a position as far away as possible to reduce any noise that may occur because of increased activity. Given the transformation that has occurred over the years along 1088, considering the benefits to the residents along 1088, I humbly ask for your approval to rezone this property to NC2 and rural land overlay. I assume you will have additional questions, and I am grateful to answer any of those you might have. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak in favor of this request? If you would please state your name and address, and you have 2 minutes remaining.
Good evening. My name's Harry Taylor. We live directly across from the property. We live at 1209 Highway 1088. The Road Home program bought us our check and said, you have a week to find a house. And we moved on Highway 1088, directly on it, up from Salt. Have you ever been to a NASCAR race? I'm getting to a point. You know, it's residential out this way, but I can't really see anybody wanting to live on Highway 1088. Dove Run down there, I really feel sorry for those people that live directly off of Highway 1088. The church next door, they have concerts, car shows, conventions, and there's no problem. The main traffic is 2 hours in the morning, 2 hours in the evening, and the rest of the day there's no problem. Andrew and Na, they're hard-working people. They have a vision. I think it would be an asset to the community. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak in favor? Is there anyone who wishes to speak in opposition? Please approach the podium and state your name and address.
Hello, my name is Leslie McGoey. My residence is 1090 Elmer Street. The property in question is directly in front of my house. There's the width of Elmer, which is approximately 20 feet, and then his land starts. I am very concerned for our street, for our residents. I'm concerned that the property level drainage, if we built something strong, you know, some kind of support system in there, filled in dirt, however it was, our drainage would be affected. Concerned that if he has a storefront there, where are the deliveries going to be made? All off of that same single road access that he's talking about, or will they eventually come down Elmer Street? Our road has already been affected by a front-end loader when he was filling in the pool in the backyard of the house. I'm looking at this as being, houses would be great. You know, much better for us. You know, that would improve our situation instead of a commercial facility. Right now, what has happened in front of me, it used to be a fenced area, and now the road traffic is, we hear it constantly, we view it, we're exposed to the road on 1088. So I know that there's been a lot of clearing that he's been able to do, and it has improved the property to some degree, but the fence has been knocked down, the house is abandoned, and we're looking at a house that's just got half of its veneer on it. So very concerned about what's going to happen here. He talked about it going to the front of 1088. I don't know that there's much depth there since I'm 20 feet from his backside and the house is maybe another 12 foot. I'm sure they have some plot lands there for you. Where would the parking be? I have pictures of flooded land in front and my view from the front yard. If y'all would like to see those, I'll be glad to pass those out. That's it.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak in opposition? Please come to the podium, state your name and address.
Hi there, my name's Barry Etheridge. I live at 1070 Elmer Street, 2 doors down from Miss Leslie. I guess I'm in favor of the staff recommendation to deny this, and I guess my best argument would be what Commissioner Matthews has said earlier on a previous case. This is in that same corridor on 1088 between the Woodlands and Forest Brook. Everything that surrounds this location is A4, I believe, or it's residential. The only exception would be across the street next to Mr. Taylor, which is that church. Everything else is residential. Any more commercial activity, like you said earlier, it's not necessary. There's commercial property further down 1088 available closer to the interstate. Once again, this is all houses around there. You know, why do we need to change that?
Thank you, sir. Anyone else who wishes to speak in opposition? Mr. Hernandez.
Thank you. Caller Hernandez. You know, I agree with the staff on the recommended denial for the commercial designation. What I disagree with is the rural overlay approval on this. And for those of us who don't, but let me just quickly, if I could, go through what the applications I believe that for rural overlay. It says it's to establish to permit agricultural uses. Okay. Then under permitted uses, it says farming and any other agricultural use, agricultural buildings, limited commercial and industrial uses, wholesale retail greenhouses and nurseries, roadside farm stands, dirt hauling equipment garage. Now, and then under permitted uses, under administrative permits. Under administrative permits, it has a long list of there. Religious uses including churches, one-car garage apartment, seafood peddlers, seasonal produce stands, fireworks sales, snowball stands, nonprofit family cemeteries, bed and breakfast, farm winery. Well, that wouldn't apply here. So I'm wondering, given the limited acreage that we're talking about here, why in the world, and what surrounds it, effectively, are single-family homes that surround it. Yes, there are some undeveloped areas in the thing, but they're, for the most part, zone residential. And I would hope, and we all hope, that they stay residentially zoned, that residences continue to live in the area, and if they have to go a short distance to get to commercial, there are many commercial designations, and we can talk about, and not far from Highway 59, which is, certainly a designated commercial area. So, those of us who believe that there's enough commercial existing today would hope that you agree with the staff that not to allow this. We also hope that you would agree that a rural overlay designation for this, to me, doesn't make sense given what could potentially take place there. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak in opposition? At this time, I would ask Mr. Johnson if you'd like to come forward. You have 5 minutes in which to rebut.
Thank you. Since buying the property, it has been a very pleasurable experience. Listening to the residents in the area along Elmer, Miss Leslie, yes, I have done some modifications to the property since taking it over. Fencing has come down in order to fill in a pool. Fencing will be going back up. Currently, the status on the property, there is a house that's probably 40 years old. I've talked to several contractors, people in the construction field that have come out to the property, taken a look at the property. I even think some of the folks on Elmer have been inside the property, and it needs significant rehabilitation. It's leaning. It was hit during a high windstorm about a year ago, ripping off some siding. And so, long term, the house is coming down. And so the question really becomes, is the site really suitable to remain as a residential unit, or based on current circumstances, is it better for something else? Mr. Hernandez mentioned go to 59. I left my house at around 5:30. Mr. Taylor needed a ride. He asked, if I could pick him up to come. He wanted to come. I didn't grab him and shove him in my car and bring him up here, but he wanted to speak. But we were almost late for the meeting, driving up Highway 59. Traffic was backed up past Sharp. And the second one, from here it might be Lonesome or Sharp. I don't know which one's the second one, the light out there. But it took us almost 30, 45 minutes to get here. And, is our intention to thrust our citizens into high traffic, high density, commercial hot spots, or give them the possibility of perhaps traversing along a less impacted road to get needed services and benefits closer to their residents? On my way home this evening, I was coming down 59 from Dog Pound Road, and I just happened to look at all the commercial structures along the way, and it just seems like every time I turned my head, there was a new strip center here, metal, and just metal and glass the whole way. That's not my intention. Our intention is to buy this property and keep as much of the characteristics that we loved when we moved here. And that is one of the reasons why, you know, I've read a lot of the new directions information, and, you know, it's the whole purpose of the comprehensive rezoning was to have a plan. And obviously a plan calls for adjustments on occasion, and I think that the I-12 interchange wasn't in the plan. It's not on the maps. Perhaps Lakeshore High wasn't included in this grand plan, but I think at some point adjustments are needed, and our intention is to keep the facility small. Wouldn't be much bigger than a regular standard size home. Service the local residents along that corridor, and you know, I think it's a good fit. And so, as you know, Mr. Hernandez's convenience, you know, 59. I hate 59, but I love 1088, and I love the neighborhood I live in. I respect my neighbors' homes, and I wouldn't do anything to negatively impact them, or at least attempt not to. But I can't make everyone happy either. But I think if they had the vision that I had, and they saw what I saw or want to see, you know, it was pretty calm. I appreciate it. Was expecting maybe a little bit much worse, but you know, that's all I got to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Would the opposition care to make any final rebuttals, comment? Please come to the podium.
Once again, Barry Etheridge. I do agree with Mr. Andrews about why he moved here and what he loved about St. Tammany and the area we live in. And the things that he loved when he moved here, I think in 2004, then why are we trying to change those things? By approving this, it's going to change what he claims he loves so much about that area. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone? Yes, ma'am.
Hi, I'm Leslie, and it's time for my pictures. So 60 foot, he just gave me one of his plots. And to me, I look at a plan like this and what he's given you, and it looks like there's a big difference or big distance. And I look at my picture, and this is from my front yard, and you can see Elmer from there. So that's my concern. There's not a lot of depth there. There's not a lot of space to build what he's talking about. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Anyone else in opposition? If not, at this time, I'd close it to the public, and I bring it to the commission. Commissioner Matthews.
This is obviously very similar to the other piece that came before us on 1088. Most of the comments we made about that are applicable here. I do have a couple of specific questions from Mr. Johnson, if you'll come up. Do you currently own this piece of property?
Yes, sir.
When did you acquire it?
March of 2014. Maybe 13 or 14.
Okay. You were the owner when this piece of property came before us a few months ago then?
Right.
Okay. And at the time, you asked for a variance because the house on this piece of property that you owned, and I believe you indicated you lived in.
No.
Well, at the time, I think you at least alluded to that you had, we had to give you a variance, or you were going to have to tear your house down, and you didn't want to do that. Now you've come before us with the same piece of property and decided you want to make it commercial rather than the house you we believed, or at least I did, that you lived in. You also want a rural overlay. Very curious. Why do you want a rural overlay on this property?
My wife and I travel quite a bit when we go out of town. We go to Gatlinburg quite a bit. We go to Michigan to visit some folks as well. A lot of characteristics that they have up there, cider mills, little roadside produce stands, things like that, I think add a lot of charm to those destinations. And I think that, we could create a little bit more charm here in the Mandeville area versus metal and glass. And so that is one of the reasons why I seek the rural land overlay. Also, we have several ideas. That's one of them. Maybe a snowball stand. The Forest Brook, Quail Creek, Woodlands, has a lot of younger, middle-aged folks that have young kids. And this is actually, it's a very large piece of property. We've thought of doing a snowball stand out there where the kids can come, maybe do some beanbag tosses, some horseshoes, things like that, and have an environment that they can visit and have a good time and enjoy the trees and things like that. I never lived in a home. I apologize if you had that impression. The house has no electricity. I believe I mentioned that, when I was here last time. It still has no electricity, and it is not habitable. But we live a mile down the road inside Forest Brook. But I spend a lot of time on the property, as much as I can. I really enjoy out there.
So you want to put a snowball stand on this piece of property?
Well, that is a permitted use. That's obviously something that we would have to, move, additional paperwork and things like that.
So
one of the reasons for the NC2 is it gives a little bit more leeway as far as what we can and can't do. It's not as intense as NC3, 10-room bed and breakfast. It's not NC4. It's not highway commercial. NC status, neighborhood commercial. I grew up in Detroit. I moved here in '89. 8 houses down the street from my house was a corner store. There's so many cases where there is always room for a small business for the local residents to go to.
But this small business is going to be a snowball stand?
Well, that if you deny the NC2, then the options get limited. And so it gets even more limited with rural land overlay. And, snowball stands, seasonal Christmas trees, stuff like that, That's all family-oriented businesses. And it's designed for, the families to bring their kids out, pick out a Christmas tree along a farm, what was once a farm back country road, and maintain that country atmosphere that we are losing.
Just down the street, there are 2 large Christmas tree lots every year.
Competition is not something that's going to hinder me. People have the right to, conduct business. We have the right to pursue our dreams and ambitions. And if there was a Christmas tree lot right next door, I'd go right there and join them. I see nail shops right across. I do business consulting work, and I'll see one nail shop. I'll look across the street. There's a nail shop, and there's a nail shop across the street. There's 4 gas stations on every corner, and now you see vape shops popping up all over the place. These, so competition, whether or not they have existing tree lots, but they definitely don't have a farmer's market, and that's what they had on Florida. It has since shut down.
Might be a reason for that.
Might be a reason for that, but
this area is, in fact, right smack in the middle of all A4 family residential. There is no real commercial between the Woodlands and Forest Brook, with the exception of the, I forget what they call it, the workout area. There are churches which are very, very low impact, and that's not what you're looking to do. There is one
Well, there's,
excuse me, there's one area for called the Bennett Brothers. What the hell are those?
Liberty Storage?
Mini storage. Couldn't think of the name. Getting old. So this is putting some type of commercial, and the NC2 list is extensive. There are at least 25 designated permitted uses, plus the administrative, plus the rural overlay, in right smack in the middle of residential. The prior piece of property was not appropriate, and this piece of property is not appropriate for commercial. And I would move to deny all of it.
I have a motion by Commissioner Matthews to deny, a second by Commissioner Dougherty. Commissioner Davis?
Yes, Mr. Johnson. I'm a little confused. What's this about a swimming pool?
This house had an in-ground gunite swimming pool in the backyard. When we bought the property, because there's no electricity, there's no pumps to maintain the water quality in the pool. So I went to the parish offices and inquired what was the procedures to fill in a pool, and they said fill it in.
Okay.
So I filled it in, and the whole point of filling it in was to eliminate mosquito infestation and stagnant water.
Okay. But when you purchased this property two or 3 years ago, you purchased it as an A4 zoning, correct?
We purchased it as a A4 zoning. However, looking at the changes and the transformation that have occurred along 1088 over the years, we saw no reason why this particular site, when we set foot on it for the very first time, we were like, wow, this is great. And I told my wife, I said, we got to do this. This is nice. And so our intention was to be able to make it an environment for other people to come and enjoy. Unfortunately, sometimes it is through businesses that this is done. It can be done in a good manner. I've watched enough council meetings, and I always get the kind of feeling that business is bad. And, you know, I understand, but business is good too. Business can be good.
Yeah, I understand about the transformation of 1088. But again, what Mr. Bill is talking about, you are surrounded by A4.
Well,
you have residential right across the street from you.
To the east is Lake Street.
Yeah. I know the Salt area very well with Elmer. I live out there. Actually,
across the street, directly across the street, is a PF1.
Yeah.
There's a cell tower on that property.
Which is allowed in PF1.
Which is allowed in PF1. But surrounded by residential, the only residential structures that are currently behind, you know, are to the back of the property.
And those are the people that are here now.
Yes, they are. But because there is a in-ground gunite pool that is currently filled in with dirt, that kind of indicates that, you know, most people typically put a pool in the backyard, and so it kind of dictated to us that that's the back, 1088's the front, and so.
So you had no intention, if this does get rezoned to NC2, to have any kind of entrance from Elmer Road? Thank you.
Commissioner Richard?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Johnson, thank you for all the background and history and what you're trying to accomplish. You gave us a plot plan with a potential layout of a building where it would be, and I still don't know what you're trying to do. If you've taken this much effort to put a parking, layout of the land, 60-foot buffers across the back, et cetera, what are you building a 3,000 square foot building to do?
Our main intention is to build well, it's actually about 2,000 square feet, because the dimensions on that property is 60 wide by 50, which is 3,000 square feet. That's the worst case scenario that I want to do. I realize that NC2 can go up to 5,000, but that's not even in the budget anyways. But was to really have about 2,000 of that as a structure, and then outdoor seating as a little cafe. We want to do a cafe with restaurant without lounge.
Okay, so we're starting to learn what you want to do
Yeah.
here, because it's been all over the place, and no disrespect.
That's
You've
fine.
got a vision, and I'm trying to understand what you're trying to do. You got a zoning issue that we're struggling with, but we also have some sort of commercial operation, and I'm not sure, and I don't know if any of
Well,
your fellow
we
commissioners
want
know
to do coffee, bubble tea, Vietnamese cuisine, with limited seating inside, limited seating outside. I only have like 14 parking spots, and then there's 5 on the side. That's 19 total spots. We don't plan on having a plethora of seating. We really want to focus on, folks that want to hang out and have some coffee, that's fine. But we want to focus a lot on the to-go business for the people that are coming home at work. The traffic at the end of the day, I'll sit out there like tonight. It was backed up from Solt past my property, probably another 10 cars. And so these are all people that are coming home from work that could potentially save themselves a trip to go back to 59 to get dinner if they don't already have something at home to eat.
I understand that you want to create a business. I understand the concept of a neighborhood and offering neighborhood services. Whether or not this is the right place for it is probably, what we're about to vote on. But I do appreciate your effort. Thank you. Answer my question.
I mean, I would suggest that, if a oh, I'm sorry.
Excuse me, Commissioner Matthews.
You're not talking about a to-go business, which will increase the traffic on 1088 exponentially. The more we learn, the less I like, and I call for a vote.
Any other questions of the commission? If not, we have a motion by Commissioner Matthews to deny, a second by Commissioner Dougherty. Commissioner Lauren?
Clarify that the motion is to deny both the rezoning and
the rural.
Yes. Thank you, Commissioner Lauren. Yeah, the motion is to deny both requests. An affirmative is a vote for denial. Please vote. Motion to deny passes. 2015-103-ZC, existing zoning, A3 Suburban District, proposed zoning, A3 Suburban District and manufactured housing overlay. The parcel, 7.416 acres. The petitioner, Michael and Judy Vaughn. The owner, Michael and Judy Vaughn. The parcel is located at the end of Marshall Vaughn Road, east of Louisiana Highway 434, being 67430 Marshall Vaughn Road, Lacombe, Ward 6, District 11. Staff?
The 2025 future land use plan calls for the area to be developed with residential uses, including manufactured homes. Staff doesn't have any objection to the request and would like to recommend approval.
Thank you. Please state your name and address.
Wendy McQueen, that's my parents, Michael and Judy Vaughn, they're with me. I currently live at 39107 Patricia Street in Pearl River, Louisiana. And this previously was rezoned in 2009, I think. It has currently like 6 mobile homes on the way to the end of this property currently. It's family land that's been passed down through generations. It's going to remain family land. And
That's why you'd like a manufactured housing overlay?
yeah, yes, sir.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that wishes to speak in favor of this request? Anyone who wishes to speak in opposition?
That's my father.
You may approach the podium. You wish to speak in favor. You want to speak against it? You're in favor.
Yeah, I'm Michael Vaughn. I own the property, and I've lived out there all my life in St. Tammany, where it's at. And it just, at this time, it's hard for kids, and I got 4 grandkids, and She had a trailer there at one time. Had a trailer there from
88 to 2001.
88 to 2001, and she went and moved. Then
It's your fault.
got rid of the trailer, and now we're trying to get it to where these grandkids or something can come there, and you know, to start out. You know, the
Certainly.
intention is not to live in a trailer all your life. I went there in a trailer, now I own a home, but that's all I'm asking for.
Thank you, sir. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak in favor? Anyone in opposition? If not, I close it to the public and I bring it to the commission. Commissioner Casabon.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Casabon to approve, second by Commissioner Willie. Commissioner Davis?
Just one question to
Who
staff
was that?
about this.
Commissioner, oh, I'm sorry. Commissioner Richardson. I apologize. Commissioner Davis.
Just one question to staff about this. At A3, how many total modular homes could we put out there on 7 acres? Do we have to have the whole thing with a mobile home, manufactured home overlay?
Regardless of the size, it's a maximum of 3, or it would become a park.
How many?
Maximum of 3.
Okay, thank you.
Any further questions? We have a motion by Commissioner Casabon and a second by Commissioner Richardson. Please vote. Motion carries. ZC 15-10-071, existing zoning, Highway Commercial 2. Proposed zoning, HC2A Highway Commercial District. The parcel, 2.88 acres. The petitioner, John Bowers III. The owner, 114 North Park LLC. The representative, David P. Sierra. The parcel is located on the northeast corner of North Park Boulevard and Park Place, being 114 North Park Boulevard, Covington, Ward 3, District 5. Referred back from the December 4th, 2015 council meeting. Staff?
The 2025 future land use plan calls for the area to be developed with commercial uses. Staff does not have any objection to the request, considering that the site is abutting the Chevron office complex on the east side, which is on PBC 1, and other commercial uses on the north, south, and west sides. Note that the HC2A would allow to increase the size of the building to a maximum of 75,000 square feet. Staff recommends approval of the requested zoning change to HC2A.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Yes, my name is Scott Grow, 545 Boshin Drive, and I represent the developer. This is the second time we've been in front of this commission with this particular project. What we have an existing building, 36,000 square feet. The existing zoning only allows for a building to be 40,000 square feet. The proposed zoning would allow the building size to go up to 75,000, but have no change in the height restrictions to the existing zoning. So it's not to put a taller building than would be allowed now. And it would also not change, for the most part, any of the requirements with use and what's allowed. It's currently used as business, and it'll stay business. We had a unanimous approval October of 2015, and then we've been sent back from the council here. Just a little bit, property is in North Park. It's a business park, and all we're talking about is a different business use. So with that, we request approval.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak in favor of this request? Anyone wish to speak in opposition? Please approach the podium, state your name and address.
Hello, my name is Lee Mathis. I am a resident in the Estates of North Park on the board in the residential area that's in the yellow on this map right here. After meeting with Representative Marty Gould just prior to him leaving his position as our councilman, he requested that this come back to the zoning commission because we really didn't have a chance to have a meeting and discuss some of the impact that this rezoning would have on our residential area and the area in question. This is a map of the December 2015 of the rezoning, this being Highway 190, this yellow being North Park. And it seems appropriate the way it's already zoned with the comprehensive rezoning, since it's HC3 moving right up on the highway, moving back toward North Park, which is a residential area. It then goes to HC2, and then just butting against the property lines, it's at NC1. So now to come back and rezone this to HC2A, it just doesn't seem appropriate. It seems like it would be intensifying an already intense situation that we have there. And I'll explain that just briefly. In the area of parking, the proposed building, I believe you all have a copy of this map right here, this aerial view. The proposed building is sitting just outside of the gate of the entrance to the North Park subdivision. This is the building right here. The building actually is not located, the majority of the building is not located or built with the artery of North Park Boulevard, which I believe is a main artery road. It's actually facing a little side street, Park Place Drive. The whole front of the building is on Park Place Drive. Just recently, Park Place Drive was opened to accommodate the back part of another phase of the North Park development. With that opening of that street, it already increased the traffic flow coming through there on this little side street. Right here is that street right here. It already increased the traffic flow right there, and there is no coming out of the parking lot of the current building. There is no main access to North Park Boulevard to go directly across and exit North Park Boulevard. The people coming out of that building would have to go down toward our gate and make a U-turn in front of the fire department to be able to exit the building. As it stands right now, it's already an intense situation. School buses now use Park Place. FedEx, as you know, is right back in this corner back here. They have trucks coming in and out of there all during the day. So we feel like as far as the traffic situation, it's only going to intensify, and it's going to become a safety hazard also. The next would be parking. The building that's a size of HC2A would allow for expansion of parking. However, the building that is located on the 36,000 square foot building that's already on the property has 147 parking spaces. To go to HC2A, they will require 91 additional parking spaces. There's no room for any more parking on the property as it stands. It's our understanding that the developer is going to use a parking facility where he developed 4,000 square foot buildings across the street from FedEx, right up against North Park subdivision. However, according to what my understanding is that and I think it says it right here in the St. Tammany General Requirements, Section 7.0702, it says that parking shall be provided on the same lot premises with such structure or land use, off-street parking or loading spaces required for structures and land uses on two or more adjoining lots may be provided in a single common facility on one or more of said lots. There's no room on the adjoining lot to put any more parking spaces. So across the street is more than 100 feet, which I think is a requirement if you're going to have a satellite parking area for overflow. It has to be within 100 feet of the structure that, or the building. I may be wrong, but I think I'm right about that. So those 91 spaces are more than 100 feet away, which means that 91 vehicles, if that building at 75,000 square feet was at full capacity, there would be 91 people, cars, potentially, parking more than 100 feet away from the building and then exiting and entering to go to work on a side street, which would be a total congestion, we believe, and it would create a safety hazard because a lot of the children, the young people from North Lake Christian, use that road both on foot, on bicycles, and in their vehicles to come home. That's the safe way rather than to go out to the highway. I would think the only, we haven't seen any kind of a drainage situation. I don't know if that would, how that would be affected. However, the last thing would be the building is not, current building that's there is not able to be added onto without a substantial renovation, including driving of pilings on an existing building that's 25 years old. Driving pilings that close to North Park, because the residents come right across the street from Park Place. You can see the residential area. Not only would it probably affect the current building, but it could create some structural damage to some of the homes that are nearby there, we believe. Also, the fact that this pile driving situation is going to be done in the evening and at night after 5 o'clock, which again would create public safety, annoyances, which comes under regulation 4.0102 of St. Tammany under expansions. The proposed expansion will not be detrimental to the public welfare, seriously affect or be injurious to other property or improvements in the neighborhood in which located, in that it will not impair an adequate supply of lighter air, increase substantially the congestion in the public street, create a parking hazard, which we believe it will, permit inadequate parking, which it will, increase the danger of fire, not necessarily fire, but it could impede if a fire did break out in the area because of the congestion. If it would be at a congested time, the house would have a problem, could have a problem getting out. Existing drainage or surge systems endanger the public safety and will cause serious annoyance or injury to occupants of the adjoining premises by reason of emission, odor, fume, gas, dust, smoke, noise, vibration, light, glare, and other nuisances. So it is with our respect to you all to take this into consideration, and we ask that you deny this property to be rezoned. It seems to be appropriate the way it is, and I thank you for listening.
Thank you, sir. If anyone else wishes to speak in opposition, you have 30 seconds. Yes, sir.
My name is Walter Heston. I'm a resident of the estates of North Park, where Mr. Mathis has just spoken. I live at 44 Laurel Oak. I like to point out that the additional capacity in this building is going to increase our traffic. We already have a tremendous amount of traffic bottlenecks trying to get out of that subdivision at numerous times of the day can be very difficult in itself, and it's just bringing in a lot more traffic to extend that capacity. And of course, just having a larger structure right adjacent to our residential area is going to negatively impact our housing values to have more larger structures right adjacent to the homes that are in that area. So to be right, it's not out away from the residential area. It's much closer to the to where the houses are. So those are my concerns, and that's why we're opposed to bringing in more than what was already planned when this place was well planned. And we very much enjoy living there. It's a great place, and we want to keep it that way. Thank you.
Thank you. Was there another gentleman who wished to speak in opposition? Again, I'll give you 30 seconds.
Good evening. My name is Richard Pouet. I also live in the Estates of North Park at 46 Sycamore Street. And just a reminder to the Commission that we already have Pool Corporation, Loop, Hornbeck, Chevron, and I'm not sure how many other smaller businesses, but there's already a tremendous amount of evening traffic there. So just not to repeat, but there's already a lot of existing businesses there. And we only have 2 roads to get out on in the afternoon, and 190 is already backed up. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. 5 minutes of rebuttal.
Thank you. I do agree with staff that the use that we're asking for still falls with the step-down principle that the first gentleman did say, that you go from more dense to less dense to less dense to residential. We still accomplish that through this request. We did meet with the residents. We got some of their concerns, some of the things that they see with regards to traffic. They did ask some drainage questions as well. The traffic patterns, I mean, that's a fairly simple engineering solution that can be accomplished. Just the way the lot was designed, we can definitely help traffic in the area, specifically with regards to vehicles entering directly onto North Park Boulevard. The way the current building works right now isn't ideal, and we can make that better. The comment about shared parking, the development of this building, if approved, and then obviously we'd go to a different process, a building permitting process. The St. Tammany requirements that require parking and the North Park requirements that require parking are a little bit different. North Park is actually more restrictive than the parish as far as parking is concerned. So what we would do, any improvements that we make, we would not only have to comply with St. Tammany Parish requirements, which would mean that every single spot that we needed would be on this lot. Any cross parking agreements would only be done to comply with the requirements of North Parks Association. So that's a sort of a minor thing. The whole plan for this improvement is to basically put a second floor, or at least partially a second floor, on top of the existing building. That will require, if not pile driving, auger cast piles, some type of deep foundation structure, and obviously we would, dependent on the amount of tenants occupied and different things like that, we would drive piles in the best times for those particular people, but we would not violate any existing St. Tammany Parish ordinances during that construction. Any changes we do to our traffic would help fire access. He did mention that as a potential issue with the fire station being right across the street. We wouldn't help that as well. And I think the biggest issue with regard to traffic that I can point out is entering and exiting traffic from the subdivision is 100% opposite of entering and exiting traffic from the development. So the development wouldn't do a whole lot to increase traffic when the residents are leaving on an outbound basis, or increase traffic on an incoming deal when the residents are coming in, because the businesses will be leaving. So I think that, once again, I think this is a pretty strong case, and it was already approved by the Commission. Thank you.
Thank you. Opposition, you have 5 minutes to rebut if you wish.
Once again, I have to disagree with, I apologize, Mr. Grove, in the area of the traffic situation. I just don't believe that was accurate information. According to the information we have, the current facility is able to accommodate 147 parking spaces. The full capacity, they would need 232 parking spaces. There's no way to get 232 on that piece of property, according to our calculations, which means that the additional overflow has to go to an adjacent site, which would be the developers near those 4,000 square foot buildings that are across the street. And it also is my understanding that if the parish approves that, and/or the North Park Association, I'm not sure exactly how that would work. If that is approved as a satellite parking facility, it's my understanding that nothing else can be used, can be put on that property as long as it's noted as a satellite. So then how would, the buildings that are already, those 4,000 square foot buildings, suppose they had a problem with, one day or whatever, because of the businesses that were in there, would need some of those spaces. How would that then, work out? You just feel like it would be a nightmare situation. Once again, the building is not on a main artery. It is on a side street. It is very congested right now. Whether it's 9 o'clock in the morning or 5 o'clock in the evening, the road is congested during the day because of the traffic flow that comes through that now open artery, back street. So we just feel like the zoning is appropriate. We feel like by rezoning it to a higher zone would only seem to intensify the situation. So again, we respectfully ask that you deny that motion. Thank you, sirs.
Thank you. Would the other two gentlemen wish to make any further comment?
Pete Pearson, 57 Walnut from North Park subdivision. The only other thing I would add is with respect to the step down, there is a large Chevron building, but it is the PBC zoning, so there is a large use and leverage of free space. It's not a very concise and congested within one piece of property. To put 75,000 square feet on this one piece of property, as they've indicated around the traffic and the parking and having this many bodies to fill. Their job is to make money on this, right? So they're trying to get enough office space in there to, to add to the value of the property. It does, what you have listed already is an appropriate step down from PBC to the HC2. And so asking that also with respect, there is no other access but going through those two items that the two areas onto 190 that was mentioned by Mr. Pouet. So thank you.
Thank you. This time I'll close it to the public and I'll bring it to the commission. Commissioner Matthews.
Not till the very end did we, I think, really learn what's going on here. I kept trying to figure out, you've got a building on here. What are you going to do, tear it down? I didn't understand. You're going to put a second story or a partial second story on this building. What do you plan to do, and I'm addressing you, the developer, how do you plan to put the extra 91 parking spaces on this piece of property?
Well, the 91 parking spaces would be if it was rezoned to 75,000 square feet. We can't fit that much parking on the site. So what we would do is we would fit what we could. The parish zoning restrictions, site planning restrictions are very clear. I mean, 350 square feet of commercial office space per parking spot. So what you would do is you would figure out how many parking spots you could put on the site, and then that would tell you the maximum size your building could be.
Okay, what would that be? Do you know?
Roughly 55,000 would be the most it could probably be.
And what is it current?
36.
36.
36,000.
And you can increase it to 55.
Right.
And where would you put those parking spaces? I'm looking at the overhead, and I see very little area that could accommodate extra parking.
We put a drawing together for North Park where we went and counted the existing spaces. You can kind of redo some of the geometry of the facility. It's kind of fanned, it's spread out. There's some places where the driveway is only single loaded. Some of the things we talked about doing after we met with the residents was turning the parking lots into one-way instead of two-way traffic. That would do things to help the traffic flow where people could come in through North Park Boulevard for the most part as they do now, and then exit leaving Park Place and Village Lane, thereby reducing some of those U-turn issues that was discussed previously. But by narrowing the drive and changing up the accesses a little bit, we can come up with quite a few parking spaces on the site. The current building only requires 103 spaces right now. It's 36,000 square feet. When you divide that by 350, you get 103. I think I can put somewhere between 140 and 150 spaces on there, and that gets me in the neighborhood of 51, 52, 53,000. So to do any more with the zoning, it would take a parking garage. Economically, that probably wouldn't work. So,
well, North Park is clearly downtown St. Tammany Parish with some of the huge developments in here, Chevron, et cetera, Loop, all of these large commercial office buildings. But I am concerned that it appears now that we're trying to shoehorn a much larger building than that piece of property can really support. And for that reason, I think I would be against this.
Any other
Make a
comments?
motion to deny if there's nobody else wants to speak.
Motion by Commissioner Matthews to deny. Commissioner Davis.
Yeah, I'm going to have to second that motion as well. I just think we're just trying to put a little bit too much work density in that area, and then with the parking spaces and the traffic, which I know very well out there, so I have to agree with Mr. Matthews on this point.
Second by Commissioner Davis. Any other comments by the commission? Now, we have a motion by Commissioner Matthews to deny, second by Commissioner Davis. A yes vote is a vote for denial. Please vote. Motion carries. We're going to go back into our agenda. On your agenda, item 5, 2015-80-ZC, existing zoning A2 Suburban District, proposed zoning AT1 Animal Training Housing District. The parcel, 38.35 acres. The petitioner, Jeffrey Shane. The owner, Global Wireless Radio Services. The parcel is located on the end of Radio Road, south of Pine Street, extension Ward 8, District 9. Staff.
The 2025 future land use plan calls for the area to be developed with residential uses. The site is currently developed with multiple cellular towers and an office building which houses the electronics related to the towers. The objectives of the request is to bring the site into compliance with the appropriate zoning. Staff is not opposed to the request. However, the acreage of the site requested to be rezoned to AT1 should be reduced to only include the area developed with cellular towers. Staff recommends that a request for an AT1 zoning be approved.
Mr. Shane.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and good evening, Commission. Jeff Shane of the Jones Fussell firm, and I represent the owner and the petitioner in this case. I appreciate you deferring these cases to later in the agenda, as I was at the City of Covington Council meeting earlier this evening. This case and also the following case are identical in that my client owns and operates a series of what I will call small towers, most of which are in the 40 to 50 foot height range on this property for many years. They not only wish to continue to operate the towers at this location, but because they are in a very rural area, we also want to look at the opportunity of making some alternative use of the property. And quite frankly, this open area would be perfect and is very conducive for the uses suggested in AT1. So as a result of the zoning, we will not only have, if you will, legal uses, i.e. the existing towers, which would allow us to make repairs or perhaps to some extent replacements in the event of some catastrophe. But we also will be able to look at the possibility of making what we think would be a very compatible and reasonable use of the land through some form of AT, permitted use, because it's sort of an open range, if you will. Now, with regard to this case, as staff has indicated, we erroneously submitted a legal description that was greater than the parcel that we wish to zone. So don't be concerned that it's been misadvertised. Actually, I submitted the deed of what my client initially acquired, but failed to realize that they had sold off approximately half of the property, the southerly half, through the years. So that your record is complete, please accept this statement as a formal amendment to the request that the application be limited to the northerly approximately 19.25 acres, and we in fact have submitted a revised legal description to staff that has been looked at by your department to make sure that we are in fact describing the right parcel. Hopefully that gives you a reasonable explanation of what we're trying to accomplish. If any of you have any questions, I'll be glad to address them.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak in favor of this request? Anyone wish to speak in opposition? Seeing none, I close it to the public and I bring it to the Commission. Commissioner Matthews.
Jeff, I thank you for that explanation, because I was going to have a real problem with all of these houses being AT1. I just could not believe that they would stand for that. So your client is looking at doing horse riding, animal training, commercial stables, that kind of stuff in and among the towers?
It's certainly a possibility. What we're thinking of is that it's essentially an unused parcel, but for, of course, these small sort of telephone style guide poles, because they're really very short. For the most part, I think only I think there's about 40 of them that are in the 40 to 50, 60-foot range. So our thinking is that we may find someone that wants to run cattle, sheep, horses, train, ride, and it really could work out good.
Staff, would running cattle fit into the AT1? It doesn't appear like it.
Wait a minute, Mr. Matthews. Yeah. We're going to do only permitted uses in AT1.
Okay.
So I'm not trying to expand the application.
Okay.
We're quite frankly trying to make the towers legal conforming, and we're going to take the benefit of the permitted uses in AT1, believing that those uses would be compatible with if you've ridden that area, and I'm sure you're at least generally familiar with it. This is a perfect spot, in my view, for AT1.
With all that being said, I move to approve.
Motion by Commissioner Matthews to approve, second by Commissioner Dougherty. Commissioner Casabon, no? Any further comments? If not, please vote. Motion carries.
Thank you.
2015-81-ZC, existing zoning A1 Suburban District, proposed zoning AT1 Animal Training District, the parcel 18.46 acres. The petitioner, Jeffrey D. Shane, the owner, Christy L. Boyette. The parcel is located on the west side of Diamond B Ranch Road, south of Pine Street Extension, Ward 9, District 9. Staff?
The site is currently developed with multiple cellular towers. The objective of the request is to bring the use of the site in compliance with the appropriate zoning. Staff doesn't have any objection to the request and would like to recommend approval.
Thank you. Mr. Shane?
Thank you, Mr. Manella. Jeff Shane, again, Jones Fussell, representing the petitioner, but not the owner. This is actually a leased site that my client has with Ms. Boyer and her family. But again, you have the same existing conditions in terms of towers that are present. You have basically this open area. And again, we would like to have AT1 zoning to make it compatible with our current use.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak in favor? Anyone in the public wish to speak in opposition? Seeing none, I close it to the public and I bring it to the commission. Commissioner Dougherty.
Yes, sir. Jeff, what are these towers used for? I mean, they're relatively short, so I mean,
I don't profess to be an expert on the technology, but I do know a little bit about it because I had to ask. It's very interesting. Although somewhat archaic, this technology has survived the test of time, and it also survives hurricanes. And most of the trafficking, if you will, from these two sites is to the shipping channels in the Atlantic, I was told, perhaps the Gulf. I'm not sure about beyond those waterways. And there is one of these locations are transmitting towers, and the other location has receiving towers. And interestingly, I believe literally no towers were lost in Katrina. So to the extent that they help, I believe, guide and monitor and maybe communicate with ships, and I'm sure there may be some other applications other than shipping, but shipping is the thing that I was briefed on.
yeah.
They're very effective. And they've been there for almost 50 years, which I found interesting as a native to think that we had these two areas of transmitters and receivers in 1965 or so for the shipping channels.
I live closer to them than you do, and I was not aware they were there.
Well, one nice thing is because they're not very big, you don't really know they're there. There are pine trees in the area that are much taller than these towers, as you might imagine.
Well, you answered my question, and I'll move to approve.
Motion by Commissioner Dougherty to approve. Commissioner Matthews.
Jeff, I have just one question. While you represent the company that has the towers, you don't represent the owner. Are we assured that the owner is compatible with this? I mean,
well, certainly.
His property is being changed.
No, sir. As you probably well know, the application requires that the owner of the property sign the application.
Okay.
So Ms. Boyer is in fact the applicant. I guess impliedly I represent her as well. But no, she concurred and signed the application, notarized application.
Okay, that was all I had concerned about. Thank you.
Commissioner Davis.
Jeff, sorry.
I'll tell you one thing, I'm not going to leave this time. Yes, sir, how can I help you?
So the only reason you're asking for the AT1 for the handle of the pot? The shape of the design of the pot, I don't understand with the little handle.
Sure.
That comes off, because you have one image that shows you it looks like a pot with a
Right.
handle, and the other design looks like a complete square. So I'm not.
Sure. I think it's just because that's the configuration of the land.
Okay, so that is the prop with the little handle coming out.
That
is
is
part of the
correct.
property.
Yes, sir.
Of course,
We
there's
checked
no
it.
cell towers in that area.
And these are
It's all
really
tree-
these are not cell towers.
Oh.
No, but I say that though because I don't
Right.
want
I mean,
you or the public to be
right.
confused that this is cellular technology or
Right.
that these are multi-hundred-foot towers.
So it's
But
only because that's what the property lines
that
are,
is correct.
right?
That is the least
Okay.
space. And,
Okay. Thank you.
Any further comments? If not, we have a motion by Commissioner Dougherty to approve, second by Commissioner Casabon. Please vote.
Now to your vote. Thank you.
Motion carries. Any old business before the commission? Any new business?
Yeah, I have some old business. At the last meeting last year, we had talked about the possible need for extra security, i.e. what the parish council is doing. And we had talked about having a committee of the commissioners to look and see what we may or may not want. And we, I believe, said we were going to hold it over till this year and start with fresh this year. So I would suggest that the chairman appoint a committee to look at what recommendations we may or may not want for increased safety.
We can do so. Who would care to serve on a safety security committee?
Obviously, myself.
Commissioner Matthews? Commissioner,
I would as a safety
Commissioner
officer.
Davis? Any other commissioners who would like to do so or get in touch with me if they wish to do so? If not, we have Commissioner Matthews and Commissioner Davis. You are the
We'll
committee.
take care of it this evening.
Anything else?
Bill, you want me to get on it?
Sure. We could have a lay or two.
That'll be fine.
Thank you, Ms. Barrett.
Anything else? Commissioner Dougherty.
Mr. Chairman, just a brief comment. I'd like to thank all the commissioners for their support for myself as vice chairman. Thank you.
And I echo the comments. We are adjourned.